There are very few things I like better than hitting the road of a morning and seeing something I've never seen before. And given that I live just 19 minutes from Kentucky, it opens up lots of opportunities for adventure. Today we're driving past Louisville. While the largest city in Kentucky, it's not the capital. We're instead heading about an hour west to Frankfort in search of new adventures and interesting places. Here you'll find the state capital, tales of the frontier, nature, waterfalls, historic buildings, and some of the best museums in Kentucky. As well as decadence. Come along for an adventure as we explore Frankfort, Kentucky. Before we dive into historic places, let's zone in on wildlife at the Salado Wildlife Education Center. After all, wildlife is what brought famous explorer Daniel Boone in 1767. You'll see lots of black bears, a common staple in Kentucky. A gigantic snapping turtle, totally not interested in being my friend. But he did the hokey pokey and he turned himself around. So very well done. It should be the Frankfort Welcome Center. I'll spare those that don't like snakes, but they do have some beauties. While not incredibly big, it has lots of hands-on activities for the kids. The big focus is on hunting and fishing. Kids can sit in a duck blind. Walk through the mouth of a large fish. Or learn how to net the big one. It's a pleasant stop that doesn't take all day.
But still, there are times when people, if they see a full-grown climax, they tell them to be around.
I wanted to visit the Frankfort Cemetery while the day was young, the air was crisp, and see a legend. This is the grave of Daniel and Rebecca Boone, and a very interesting story. Not handicap accessible, but not horrible with landings. So here's the strange story. After Daniel Boone lost his land in Kentucky, he left for Missouri, saying he needed more elbow room. He lived here with his son until he died, and was then buried in this small Missouri cemetery. In fact, there is still a grave there with his name on it. But one day, the organizers of a new cemetery at Frankfort got an idea. If we bring Daniel Boone's bones to our cemetery, more people will want to buy plots. So they went all the way out to Missouri and brought back what they thought were Daniel and Rebecca Boone's bones. It overlooks not only the river, but the Frankfort Capitol. So legislators can think it's like Daniel Boone is overlooking our very decisions. But here's the kicker. Later analysis of the skull, allegedly belonging to Daniel Boone, was deemed that of an African American. It's unclear if they got the wrong bones, or a mix of different people. It could be that parts of Daniel and Rebecca are in two different states. At the moment, they're refurbishing the Capitol, and you'll see a bunch of scaffolding. You can drive around it and take pictures. The grounds are famous for a giant floral clock. It kind of resembles the one at Disney World. I walked around it to admire the flowers. Clockwise. I had to put that in. To the east is the beautiful Governor's Mansion. A few blocks away, high on the hill, is a place called the Capitol Overlook. Best visited in the afternoon when the sun is coming from the west. Driving through downtown Frankfort is an attraction all by itself. Lots of historic buildings and museums in a compressed area. The old Kentucky State Capitol is beautiful and worth a tour. Frankfort became the capital in 1792. Out front is a statue of Governor William Goebel that was assassinated in 1900. Inside is a grand time capsule. Get a load of this place. One ticket will get you admission to the Old State Capitol, Armory, and History Museum. The Capital City Museum is completely free and a good primer for Frankfort history. When I visited, they were gearing up for Halloween. And the story of William Goebel's assassination fit into the theme. You can't talk about Kentucky without its whiskey. But there's also a story about professional fishing reel production. This spot was once a cemetery, and bones were dug up during construction. I asked if the place was haunted. Yes. Upstairs are more exhibits. A tribute to Miss Elizabeth that you might know from wrestling history. Many find displays honoring Frankfort veterans. And even movie star Bob Custer. Lots of surprises around every corner, and that describes much of Old Frankfort. In the parking lot is an old depot and a hidden tunnel. Cold, dark, and a little creepy. But if you faintly hear a train, you better be gone. There's not much room here. Just across the railroad track is the Thomas D. Clark Center for Kentucky History. Not just the best place to research Kentucky history and genealogy, but an outstanding huge museum. A Hall of Kentucky Governors. And displays that walk you through time, from the ancient to modern history. There is a lot to digest. And if you read everything, you will be here all day. There's even a coal mine. Dioramas of the past. And lots of eye candy. If you can only visit one museum in Kentucky, this is it. Just up the hill is the Kentucky Military Museum, formerly the Armory. During the Civil War, Confederates attacked it, and you can still see bullet marks in the brick. Inside is a worthy collection, spanning the history of America and its conflicts. Is it haunted? What do you think? If you drive around the block near the History Museum, you'll see many notable buildings, including the old Governor's Mansion, currently under renovation. And a few blocks across town, Liberty Hall. Started in 1796 by John Brown, he not only served under George Washington, but was part of the Continental Congress and a Kentucky senator. The Marquis de Lafayette visited in 1825, the man that was like George Washington's own son. Lafayette was a brilliant commander that helped us win the War of Independence, and after that, he went back to Europe to help win another. He was an absolute rock star of his time, and everyone wanted to shake his hand. Lots of history here. Heading northeast, we arrive at Leslie Morris Park and Fort Hill. Overlooking Frankfort, it was where Union soldiers made defensive earthworks. However, it didn't work. Frankfort was the only state capital overtaken by Confederates. At the top of the hill is the Sullivan House, and a Confederate monument denoted CSA for Confederate States of America. Kentucky was a state divided by beliefs, a history worth remembering so we don't make the same mistakes twice. Northeast, I found Cove Spring Park. There is a low and high section. The low section is where you'll find two beautiful waterfalls. Both of these are handicap accessible and a short distance from the parking lot. There are stairs that go to the high section of the park. Or you can simply drive up the hill. You'll find a very large walking trail that goes in a loop, and an archery range. That's why you always have a bow and arrows in the car. You never know. Heading back south, you'll find Rebecca Ruth Candy Tours. I had no idea what that meant. As the story goes, two teachers, Rebecca Gooch and Ruth Hanley, decided to start a candy business in 1919. They became very successful and famous for inventing bourbon balls, chocolate infused with bourbon whiskey. You can simply come in to buy some candy or take a tour of the operations, thus the candy tour. The raspberry-filled dark chocolates will make you a believer in the brand. For a guy that doesn't drink, I wasn't interested in the Bourbon Trail Distillery tours, where everyone gets samples of whiskey. But I am interested in historic old places, such as all the old buildings that look deserted, housing and aging whiskey to this day. The entrance of the old Taylor Distillery looks like a castle. Now the Castle and Key Distillery. The smell of alcohol is very strong. I guess you could say they are keeping the spirit of the past alive. You can easily make a day or two out of Frankfort, Kentucky, especially if you take all the historic tours and hike the scenic trails. It's a great primer for the rest of the state and for the many back roads that follow. Maybe it's time for a road trip.